Hey, welcome back to Her Shift, Surviving PMDD, Trauma Healing, Women's Wellness Stories. And if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm going to put my makeup on while I do this because I want to. It really helps me actually. It's like a little bit grounding while I'm doing it. I'm going to get straight into the title of this episode. And then I'm going to tell you what inspired it. And I'm a little bit on my high horse. So, what causes PMDD, and what is the cure? Isn't that the golden age-old question? And I'm just going to put this out there that obviously I am not a medical professional. I am someone who has more of a lived experience, which I sometimes think counts for more in this life. And I am going to be talking about other ailments, other conditions, and I'm going to be talking about the C word. I'm going to be talking about cancer as a comparison in this episode. And I'm not doing that to be crass. I'm not doing that to be insensitive. It's just, I thought it would be quite an interesting condition, illness that affects so many of us and a lot of us have experience in. And therefore, it would be quite a good benchmark to go, actually, I think this and I think that, and this is why I've come to this conclusion. Okay, so please bear in that in mind. And obviously, if that's something that you don't want to listen to, especially from me, please, no issue there. Right. I was watching TikTok. I was scrolling through, and I have two TikTok accounts. And the reason that I do that is so I can scroll things that are of interest to me, educational, support my algorithm, talk about trauma healing, women's health, mental health, PMDD. And then the other account I use as trash. I want to just like scroll and decompress too, and just really random stuff from reality TV. I'm watching a bit of Celebs Go Dating in the UK right now, and all I can say is, oh, that's a cesspit of a dating pool. I'm so glad I don't ever have to do that. There's this thing where people, if that's what people do when they go on dates, and you have to say things like, I'm vibing with you. I just think me and you just get on so well. I'm like, you don't even know her name. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I have two TikTok accounts, and I was going through my more educational one, and I came across an account by Kyle Cox, and he is a psychologist, and he works in trauma healing, and a lot of like nervous system resetting. And he brought up the subject of PMDD, and his first lines were, "This isn't, PMS." And I thought, okay, great. Now, it always intrigues me when I go on these accounts where it's obviously a medical professional, but it's also a man. It just makes me a little bit cynical from the offset. Now, there was nothing patronizing, there was nothing negative or toxic about this account. However, and this is what has inspired me, he straight away went into naming all the symptoms. This is what PMDD is. This is the difference between PMS. He then listed what causes it. And that is when I start to get a little bit touchy, like PMDD touchy, right? It got my back up, I'm not going to lie. So Mr. Cox described PMDD as the cause of it being that you have completely normal hormonal levels, and you have your brain has a sensitive response to normal hormone levels. Okay. And he said the hormone that your brain is sensitive to is progesterone. He obviously gave a much more in-depth explanation, more than I ever could. But that was the crux of it. That was the summary. And I just went, excuse me? I think you find it's a little bit more to it than that, and that does not apply to me. Which then got me thinking, okay, like I'm 90% sure what causes it for me, but I would never say that was what causes it for other women. I also know, therefore, what can cure it, help it, support it is different for everybody. And then it took me down the rabbit hole of, then I was thinking about cancer, how varied it is, how different it is, how it shows up in different ways in different people, in men and women, and also how our research of it has evolved over the years to the fact that we still don't know for sure what causes it. We know there are variables, and we know that, obviously smoking can cause cancer. However, you can smoke and it might not cause cancer, right? So it's like a really strong factor. But then it was also, then you think, right, if you smoke and perhaps you have this genetic makeup, perhaps you've experienced this in life, maybe you are more prone to stress, maybe there's a family history, etc. So there's lots of variables. So we know what is more likely to cause it, and we know there's things that you can do to be healthier, but we also know there's people that really look after themselves and don't have a history of it in their family, and unfortunately still get it. With that in mind, I started to get a little bit more, okay, what if we started looking at PMDD from that angle of this very serious condition? And originally I was going to compare it actually to depression, because I thought, and mental health in general, but then I thought, that's still probably a bit new age, isn't it? It's something that we know less about. We know less about mental health, I think, than we do about cancer. So, and we accept that, and we're okay. And we also know that's an evolution, and we know that has different causes, and we know that mental health. You go and get it. If I've not managed to edit that out, the doorbell just went. My son tried to answer the door to take the packaging for me. He couldn't get the keychain off, and we've just had the door nearly ripped off. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So, talking about the evolution of certain conditions, certain illnesses, and how it's always evolving, and we never. And what got to me was we never seem to make it a thing with serious illnesses. And I know there's lots more to, there's so many things, isn't there, with mental health and forms of cancer, and I'm not focusing on those for any particular reason. It's just that maybe I have a lot more lived experience with those. Okay. Is that we don't make it our thing to be like, we've got to know the reason behind it, and we've got to know that one cure. We don't focus that. We accept that there's many variables, and we accept that there's many cures. So for me to then go on TikTok and find a man talking about a woman's condition, and to nail it down to go, this is what causes it and this is what cures it, it got right on my Kit Kats. And I thought maybe that's the problem. And maybe if we weren't so pre-focused on that, maybe we would make massive steps forward in our healing, in supporting each other, in acceptance of ourselves, because that's a big thing with PMDD, right? So back to Mr. Cox, back to Kyle and what he had said it was. Now I've got it honed down to three things, three main variables, okay, with PMDD. This is what I think plays a factor in it. For me, I believe it could be one of those things in anybody. It could be a combination, but I also believe that these three variables that I'm about to name are also different for everybody, because we're all different. We all have a different lived experience. We all live in a different area, have a different environment, have different people around us, have different views, etc., etc. I always feel like I have to cover my back and talk about stats and data, and I'm not a medical professional, and I struggle with that because I'm certainly more. I'm heart focused. I'm like very, you can tell I'm an emotional one. Anyway, so for me personally, because I went private eventually, and I had lots of tests done, which for my hormones, and I had to have blood tests done at certain times, a certain time in my cycle. I had to fast before I had them, and it had to be done. So I think it had to be done at the start of luteal, like so many days before my period, which of course was a bit chancy, because if you've got a different cycle going on, we might have missed the spot. But we did it. We managed to get there, and I had to send these bloods off to London. And when they came back, so I've spoken about this before, my estrogen, depending on UK or America, my estrogen levels were through the roof. They were even higher than that of a pregnant woman. So to the point where they were like, the consultant said to me, I don't know how you're functioning with your estrogen levels so high. But I took great comfort in that, because it made me like, okay, my hormone levels are definitely not normal. What was said in this TikTok, like, mine aren't normal. That is not normal. They were I'm pretty sure they were like at nearly 15 times higher than what they should have been around that time of the month. And also my progesterone, and that is the hormone that would cause to release an egg, so to help you during ovulation, and it's more of the soothing hormone. That was really low, like ridiculously low, which then made sense because when I was trying to conceive when I was a lot younger, in my 20s, it was brought to my attention that I was struggling to ovulate. That's what the test told me, but they never told me why. And now I was thinking, if my progesterone was so low and that causes the egg to release, it doesn't stop you having a period, because I was stopping periods, but I was not ovulating, and now I know why. So my estrogen was ridiculously high. My progesterone was very, very low. So not normal at all, Kyle. Okay. I then believe as well that any person, even without sensitivities in their brain to their own hormones, would struggle with their hormone levels at that. I also accept that for different people, they might have lower estrogen, higher progesterone. You know, they all have different levels going on. But I also, and we don't do these tests on the NHS. I had to go private for these. So there'll be so many people going, I think that's me. But you've got someone like Kyle saying, no, your hormone levels are totally normal. It's the sensitivities in your brain that are causing the problem. Now, I thought for myself that so I've definitely got high hormone levels, or skewed ones, definitely not normal. But I've also thought I've probably got extreme sensitivities in my brain to those hormone levels as well. Yeah. So in that sense, like, yeah, that's probably true. I probably do. So I have that. And then my third variable for me, so I've got an imbalance of my hormones, I've got sensitivity in my brain to those hormones, and I also believe I've got had a lot of unprocessed trauma, which then takes me back to mental health and cancer. We know that people are likely to get sick, have poor mental health, be more prone to cancers when they are stressed, when they are depressed, when they are unhappy, when they've got unprocessed trauma, when they stuff things down, when they, yeah? Which then led me to believe that because you have to be a woman to have PMDD, so could this therefore be a woman's nervous system response to something not being right in her life? It's like if you're more prone to getting colds, if you get the flu, if you've got high blood pressure because you've got all these things going on in your life. Now we know that men can have those things going on too. Obviously they can be more prone to heart attacks, high blood pressure, stress, absolutely. But they don't have a cycle. If they did, surely the first thing we'd think is, and it's messing with his cycle. It's messing with his ability to conceive. It's messing with his ability to function because of this how do I phrase it? We have this God-given thing in us as women, our cycle, and there are factors that are messing with that. And that is the first thing to go. That is the first engine light to go on with us. And it might be some months are better than others. It might cause heavier bleeding. It might cause lighter bleeding. I know that when we are under extreme trauma, not under extreme trauma, when you've had extreme trauma, you've had stress, etc., your body probably doesn't want to get pregnant. And it will put you first because it thinks, I can't support you, never mind another life. So for that reason, it would probably stop you ovulating. And if it did not do that, it then might even stop your periods completely. That is really, really common. And it's always been said that if someone's very underweight or overweight, your periods will stop. And I believe the reason is to stop, to give your body a break, to go, I can't support you and another life. So therefore, I'm going to put you first. I'm going to protect you and I'm going to really try and stop you getting pregnant. You can sort of tell I'm not a medical professional, can't you? And my my ideas and my hypotheses and how I get there. But anyway, that side makes sense to me. So then it made me think that if we combine those three variables as sensitivities to hormones, skewed hormone levels, and unprocessed trauma, and everyone who has those things is varied as well, surely could we not stop there and go, that's what causes PMDD? a mixed variable, a mixed bag of those three things. I'd be happy with that if someone said it's going to be a mix of those three things, 1, 2, or even 3 of them all combined, and they will change at different times over the years as well, and that's what causes PMDD. And I'd be more than happy to stop there and go, right, okay, makes complete sense. And yeah, it's gonna mess us up as women. It's gonna mess up our reproductive cycle. It's gonna cause us problems. And obviously during our luteal phase, the engine blinking light is going to go off more and more and more and more. I'm still going with the makeup, but it's taking me a little while because I'm thinking I'm getting so I'm getting so touchy. Too much information, but I am so knee deep in luteal. I am probably 1 or 2 days off my period. So, and I have been told that on the podcast my voice changes as well just before I get before D-Day. Anyway, so with that in mind, if we could say that it's those three variables, and we will continue to evolve and we will continue to put research and time into that just so we can understand more and more and more. But if we could just factor in a little bit of common sense about how something, those three things could really affect a woman's body and of course this effect on her, that would make sense to me. So then what is the cure? And why are we trying to hone it down to just one thing? So we know with forms of mental health, there are so many things that are recommended, and even now there is not one cure. And without wanting to sound too crass, let's remember that it wasn't that long ago that the idea of people would put electricity through the brain because they thought that would be the ultimate cure to depression or poor mental health, particularly in women. Let's not forget that a lobotomy was praised as, a medical marvel and a breakthrough. And again, this would mean that no one would ever get depressed ever again. They'd never feel anything ever again. So we accept that. We accept that things have moved on and things are evolving and there was not one cure. And I know with poor mental health, we're advised to look at our diet, look at our environment, look at our exercise. We're encouraged to surround ourselves with positivity and do things that really, really help us. Obviously, there's medical treatment as well, and of course, and again, there are forms of antidepressant, right? But there isn't just one antidepressant. There's lots of different versions, lots of different variations, and one will suit another person better. We are also at the belief now that we know that an antidepressant won't cure depression. It will help, it will support, it will give that person a break. But it doesn't fix anything because there's nothing to fix. There's just something going on, It's a lot more detailed and a lot more layered than we can understand. It made me think that maybe that's part of the problem, in that we are where we are now and we've got these amazing advancements and technologies, and yet we can't pinpoint what causes these illnesses, ailments, etc. Maybe it's a pride thing. But I also know with poor mental health that if there's any chance to come back from it, it's not one thing. We are encouraged to make changes throughout our life and to do it carefully. And it will be when someone gets better, it's because they might be on an antidepressant, they might be going to the gym more, they might be eating better, they might be sleeping better, they might be taking better quality of rest, etc., etc., etc. And also they might have therapy as well. So again, you would not just say this one thing is going to cure it. So why would this one thing cure it with PMDD? Why are we so obsessed with finding this one cure? I'm wondering whether to give up on my makeup today, because it almost seems to be that as well, during Hell Week, that we do lose the inherent task of multitasking. So can I talk and put my makeup on at the same time? It would suggest that I am struggling right now. So regarding the cures, I'm thinking that if we were not so het up on finding this one miracle thing and maybe empowering ourselves with more knowledge and more understanding and looking at things slightly differently, we would start to feel better sooner. Maybe it's what's hindering us. If you're waiting for that silver bullet and you're not going to do anything else in the meantime, perhaps even the idea of, because things are so bad, and I've been there, I really have, where things are so bad and your choices are so limited and you don't even have the bandwidth to consider what might help you, to go for that full hysterectomy. I completely understand that. And as I've said before, yeah, that will make massive impact and massive changes. I'm sure a lot of the PMDD symptoms will go away overnight. I don't doubt that. It would be impossible for them not to. Though I am still skeptical as to what is left behind. Will everything be amazing after that hysterectomy? Or will something else come up in the future? It won't be PMDD, but again, I'm not being critical of anyone that's gone down that route. I've been so tempted so many times myself. I really, really have. Getting a text of my daughter about something really important and really random. So I'm just going to reply to that. Oh, life-changing. Anyway, as I said, I really can understand that desperate need to, you know what, I'm going to obliterate my female reproductive system. And again, I've been so close to doing that. And some days I still want to. I think it's an incredibly brave step to do, but it also makes me think, what would I need to do alongside that? Would I then have to look at HRT? Would I then have to look at other forms of therapy? And what if it didn't work completely? What if it alleviated a lot of the symptoms, but what if my mental health was even worse afterwards? It just raises so many questions. And again, the reason I do this podcast and the reason that I ask these questions is not because I want to know. I'm asking this question. I want to know from all of you. I would love, love, love to talk to someone actually that got to the point where they couldn't do anything else and had to have a hysterectomy. And I would love, if anyone is out there and they would like to come and talk to me about it privately on the podcast, I would be so grateful for that, because I want to know, I want to empower myself with that knowledge and to help others in that way. I think the reason my voice changes when I talk about that is because I just find it so sad, like knowing and being there myself, to take such drastic action because we are not supported and we don't know what the reasons are, and to feel so desperate in our lives to do that. Yeah, it just makes me sad and it makes me want to do something about it. So for me, the things that have helped me, and I've listed these before, there was knowledge. Knowledge was a big one. Empowerment, knowing about knowledge, knowing about other people, knowing about other people's plights, feeling that I wasn't alone, getting a diagnosis and not feeling like I was being a female hypochondriac. It was having private bloods done and seeing my hormonal levels off the chart and going, right, okay, that I'm not going crazy. There's something going on there. It was speaking to Natalie Ryan Herbert, and there is a podcast episode with her because she massively believes that unprocessed trauma really does affect us and is a main underlying factor to women with PMDD. There aren't many cases of women that she's found where there's not been something underlying, some unprocessed trauma. And that just spoke to me volumes. I've spoken about it in the past. I have got a very varied, quite a traumatic upbringing, let's say. There's no way that will have not impacted me. So there was that. Sensitivities in my brain. I don't know about that, but I can only guess that's probably true. So knowing that knowledge, having the diagnosis, feeling validated, feeling seen, doing the podcast, speaking to others, feeling that level of empowerment. Cyclical living was a huge one. It was taking into the fact that actually the reason that I've struggled to live on the 9 to 5 and the weekday cycle is because I wasn't built for that. That my cycle really impacts my ability to think, to function, and to know that while it's not ideal, that I probably would have avoid booking certain things if they were going to coincide with my luteal phase, and to know that when I'm feeling shit hot with work, that's when I'm going to knock it all out. It's been helpful. It's been game changing. But more than anything, it's given me kindness and grace to myself to go, actually, I'm not weak. I'm not lazy. I'm a woman. And there are times where I am absolutely on fire and I could outdo, I could run 10 companies and I could take over the world, like Pinky in the Brain style, for maybe 2 days a month. And the rest of the time, I would have to make certain adaptations. Again, that's helped me. It's helped me knowing that. There are episodes on cyclical living. I would encourage you to look that up, and I would massively encourage anyone as well to track their cycle. For some reason, we've tried to stuff having a cycle and our periods. We've tried to avoid thinking about when we're going to have Hell Week. I follow an app that also tracks the moon, and that is like that realization of how much the moon affects my body, my vibe, my energy, my cycle, etc., etc., etc. Again, really, really empowering. Just knowledge. I am taking a whole host of supplements. Again, really helpful. Not going to cure, but again, supporting, give me things that I need, educating without being patronizing those around me so they know where I'm at, why I might be acting the way I am, why my mood changes. Wanting my kids, especially my son, to grow up with that knowledge, to not make it, well, it's a woman's problem or it's a woman of a certain age's problem. And that's not how we grow, and that's not how we support each other. Having a partner that is so on the same page, I like to think that he probably finds it quite interesting. He definitely has to be prepared to comfort the tiger at times, but that has massively helped me because I've therefore not felt afraid. I've not felt a bit freaky. I've not felt weird. It's him knowing that there's a high possibility that she's behaving like this or being so reactive because of what's going on with her cycle. And that's okay. Again, with these apps, you can actually hook up your partner to your cycle so they do have a better insight to what's going on with you. I made the commitment to sign up to the gym and I sign up to new classes, and now when I miss them for whatever reason, and it might be because I just don't have the energy or I'm not in the mood, I've not got the mental bandwidth, I don't beat myself up because I will go and there will be a time. And even if sometimes it would simply a case of I would drive to the gym and I would do 10 lengths in the pool and that would be it. I know that 10 lengths is still better than nothing. And actually going into a different environment when I'm struggling is again better than nothing. And just being proud of myself for any steps that I've taken and anything I can do to help myself. I'm not going to beat myself up for spending loads of money every month on a gym pass when sometimes I can't do it. I can't do it. Be kind. I've massively overhauled my self-care to try and make myself be looked after in the way that I would have wanted to be as a child. So if my daughter was going through poor mental health and flu-like symptoms that are caused by PMDD, I would really want her to be looked after. I would want to nurture her. I'd want to care for her. I'd want to put things in place for her. I've flipped that and I've tried to apply it to myself, knowing that it's not guilt, it's not indulgent. It's like, I've got to look after myself. I owe it to those around me. I owe it to my kids. It is not selfish. Self-care has been game-changing, and there's so many aspects to it. And I think my last episode was on that, on the little things that we don't consider to be self-care, but they are. So, like having a cleaning product subscription, having a house smell nice, having the sheets that you want, having a bath when you want, things like that, having clothes that make you feel good, etc., etc. There is so much to that. And I think that the main thing that has come with time and come with doing this podcast is that I've now got the confidence to make an episode like this where I can challenge someone who is much more medically qualified but not experience qualified compared to me, where I've got the confidence to challenge a man's opinion, where I've got the confidence to go with my intuition and go with my gut. That is something that we lose as women anyway, and I do believe that anyone with PMDD or hormonal issues or poor mental health really does lose that intuition with themselves, and that is such a shame because a woman's intuition is amazing. Oh my god, it is good. And I think some of us actually even fear it because we don't want to know the answer behind it sometimes, or we don't want to rock the boat, we don't want to upset ourselves to why we might be feeling that way. But I also think it's one of the reasons why when we go to see a doctor or we think something's not right with us, we don't push it and we tend to accept the first response. And if it's not a supportive response or if we're not diagnosed correctly, it takes a lot from us, doesn't it, to challenge it, to argue that point. The more in tune I am with my gut, my intuition, the more knowledge I have, the more confident I become. So then I can ask these questions like I do on the podcast. There would only be a few years ago that I wouldn't do it because I'd be so scared of being shot down or being called something or being an antagonist. The amount of times that I haven't dared to argue with a male professional, a gynecologist, because, why would I do that? When in my gut, which is screaming, going, this isn't right. This isn't right. A little story there that I've got to remind myself about any time that I question the fact that I know myself best. So I've recently decided, because oh dear God, I'm so in the menopause, like I really, really am. But equally, I'm gonna take steps to help myself here. I've lost my vitality, or I'm losing my vitality, and you know what? I'm refusing to accept that. I'm not going to go down that route. So, um, while I don't think having the Mirena coil is a cure per se, having that permanent flow of progesterone inside of me, which is what the Mirena coil is, for me, again, I know some women are sensitive to it and it doesn't help them at all, but to me, it was really, really helpful. I had it taken out in 2020 when everything was going to shit, and I went to A&E and demanded it be taken out. I said, it's not working anymore. I'm going to have that put back in. And I'm hoping that it will, as a form of HRT, and it will help me during my perimenopause. I don't have any need for contraception, but apparently that we should cover ourselves way into our 50s. Anyway, I'm 44, by the way, nearly 45. I'm going to have that put in. I had that put in twice by a very experienced male gynecologist who was probably in his late 50s, early 60s at the time, definitely coasting towards retirement, would have performed loads of life-changing and possibly life-saving hysterectomies, was this superhero of the gyno ward. And yeah, I can imagine probably had inserted one of these things thousands of times over his career. I'll just let you know, he didn't actually know what PMDD was. He just thought I had extreme PMS. But I thought, you know what, anything you can do to help me, let's go with that. When I went to have my last Mirena coil taken out by him, and my lobster came with me, and that was his first experience from, the gyno side of things. Went in the room, and this male gynecologist was just chatting with my lobster, as if I wasn't even in the room, making small talk, talking about the weather, politics, what's going on with the country. I'm laid on the bed, legs akimbo. He did not offer me anaesthetic or any pain relief. He made it sound like it was to me the most simple procedure in the world. He continued to talk to my partner while he started to remove the Mirena coil. At that point, it was so painful for me, I started crying. And my body started to almost like reject him, like, get away from me, you're really hurting me. My lobster said, can she have any form of pain relief? And he said, I suppose we could get some gas in air. I suppose. So he went and found some in the room. I don't think this is a thing that he does very often, because he passed the mask to me and said, you know what you're doing? I said, yes, I do, because I've had children. So yes, I've used gas in air before. Now, it didn't feel like anything was coming through the mask, so I just said, it's not working. And he went, of course it's not working. You're not doing it properly. You have to inhale. That's what he said to me, as he continued to try and remove Barbie's coat hanger from my foof. I said, it's really not working. My lobster took it off me. He inhaled and went, it's not on. It's not working. It's not on. The gynecologist went, oh, okay, no problem. And he went, oh, it isn't, is it? Very casually. He then tried to switch on what was in the oxygen tank, the canister. And as he did it, the pressure caused a valve to splint off and go across the room and hit the wall. I looked at my lobster in that moment, quite bewildered, a little bit scared, who then looked at me with complete, don't worry, it's fine. But he later told me in his head he was thinking, what the fuck? Like, you've got a guy who doesn't really know what he's doing here. Yeah, he's meant to be the best in the biz. So this valve shot off across the room, and the guy then took the mask, put it on his own mouth, inhaled it to see if it was working. It still wasn't. My lobster then took the canister off the gynecologist and switched it on for him, showed him how to work it. So it came on. And just to make sure it was, the gynecologist then took another inhale of the gas in air, and then went, okay, yeah, that's working. So I'm thinking, he's just had some drugs and now he's going to do this procedure on me. Okay. I mean, if it wasn't actually serious, it was beyond funny. And I know that for many years, my lobster tried to just, we'd laugh about it and go, that was ridiculous. How funny was that? Um, it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. And thank God he was there, because I would not have had the confidence in that moment to say to this gynecologist, you don't know what you're doing. And what you're doing right now is really unprofessional. And also, you've just taken a hit of gas and air, and now you've put a speculum up me, and you're going to remove this coil. You shouldn't be doing that. And that's what actually happened. And my lobster later said to me he was actually quite traumatized by it. It found it really upsetting. And it was like, one of the moments where he's thinking, shit, she's gone through this before on her own. Other women are going through this, and they think it's normal and it's something they have to put up with. Or the amount of women that have this procedure thinking that they can't have pain relief. I found it excruciatingly painful for me. And we need to find our voice on that. So anyway, whenever I doubt myself, whenever I think about doubting myself, my intuition, I think back to this day. I think back to that gynecologist who was obviously incredibly skilled in his field, had done this and this and that. And it was like something out of Benny Hill sketch. Okay, so I hope that kind of inspires you to go, you know what? You know what you need. You know what's right. Please trust your gut. Try and find your intuition in you. It will be one of the jigsaw pieces in what helps you and supports you in your PMDD journey. I also thought in that moment, there are so many times when people have been actually seriously ill, or they know they're not right, and they've been dismissed by a doctor or a medical professional, only to then later find out actually they might have cancer, or they're actually very seriously ill, or they have an infection or something, not quite right. That happened to me when I had my son via C-section, and I was basically made out to be that I was very weak and I wasn't adjusting well and I needed more pain relief. The next day, when you've had a C-section, a lot of people are able to leave the hospital. The girl in bed next to me was in her teens and she had a baby, and with a C-section, and she literally just bounced out of bed. I was absolutely effed. I really struggled. I was in a lot of pain. However, I again doubted myself. I didn't have that confidence. I thought I was being weak. I thought I was being dramatic. I hobbled home 2 days later and was back into hospital within a couple of days because I had a serious infection that had gone amiss, hadn't been noticed. I was then admitted back to hospital, had to go on a drip, I had to be in a private room. And of course, they were very apologetic. And I suddenly felt, actually, I wasn't making it up. I wasn't being lazy. I wasn't being too much. I knew I wasn't right. I knew there was something not okay. And I know that we fight for that in others, don't we? If there's anything going on with our children, we fight, we go with our intuition or our loved ones, but we struggle to do it for ourselves. Have I gone on a bit? I still haven't got much makeup on. And my hair is still looking very, very fluffy. I hope that from this episode, I've offered a different perspective that perhaps we could ask questions about, as in, does there have to be a single reason behind PMDD? And therefore, does there have to be a single cure? Perhaps we could look at this as an evolving, ever-evolving, continued research on a field that is relatively in its infancy, that we don't know that much about, and realising that everyone's different. Everyone's going to have their own journey, their own take. PMDD affects every woman differently, but to her in that moment, it is her hell. It is her own lived personal hell. We mustn't compare. We mustn't diminish. We have to offer solutions. We have to offer support, and we have to really remove the labels that go with this. I would love to hear your feedback on this. I would love to know what you think is your journey. What has happened to you? How does PMDD make you feel? How have you been treated? What do you think the reasons are behind your struggles? What has helped you? What has offered you relief and offered you support? What has been your more messages from my daughter? Oh, I can't wait. I love it when I'm talking about something so serious and she just chippers in. Yeah, I'd love to hear about your lived experiences, your medical experiences. And again, if anyone has had a hysterectomy and would be gracious enough to share that with me, I would be so grateful. Thank you. It really would mean an understanding, because as much as I have a lived experience, I have not had a hysterectomy, and Again, I just think we need to know more about that and how it affects people in the moment, what led them to it, and what has been the results afterwards. We also have the second meetup of the PMDD Support Hub UK that is happening on Monday, the 22nd of September at Gateshead, so Metropolitan House in Gateshead. I appreciate that is a very location-based thing, and that if you're not in the northeast it can't happen. People are already saying, oh, can we look at doing this online, like having a Zoom in the room while you're doing it? Absolutely, but this is just in its infancy. We're just starting out with it, and we need to see if people want to do this, if it would be helpful, and then we would roll it out ideally throughout the northeast and then through the rest of the UK as it became more popular. Just getting that out there. As always, there are resources and links on my page. There is a free PMDD survival kit, and there are articles and posts and blogs. I also have the free group, Battlefield Red, the Hormone Wars. That's a free Facebook group, and the idea is that it's raw and unfiltered. Come as you are, say what you want, swear your little socks off if you need to, talk about your experience. I would love to welcome you there. It's a very small group thus far, and sometimes I do feel like I'm talking to crickets, but again, if you would be so kind as to find me over on Facebook, that would be great. And can I ask a favour of you? If this is your sort of space, and if you think it helps you or helps anyone you know, I would be delighted if you could like and share and subscribe and all that jizz. That would be brilliant. Thank you. Jizz? Did I just say that? All right, I'm in luteal. Bear with me. Whole new level of brain fog. Thank you again. And I'd like to say, as always, please, please, please keep going. You are doing amazing. You are stronger than you think. Don't stop. Trust your intuition. And as always, sending all my love.